Hello again. Welcome to my YouTube channel called Just the Talk. If you like it, please subscribe. Thank you. Recently, I did a YouTube video about basic understanding of genetics and genes and DNA. It, the material was taken from this particular article called Darwin, Mouse, and Me. This particular article was published about 6 years ago in an Indian magazine, period. I'm going to do the whole article. It's a little long, but I think it might take 2 YouTube videos, maybe 3. Hopefully you will like it. So here we go. A few months ago, I heard some noise in my attic, and I suspected a creature or a mice. Called the pest control company. They came in, put a trap, and it turned out to be a mice. As you know, the mice has been used quite commonly in Darwinian theory of evolution. The theory is well known, and there are many questions that were created after Darwin proposed the theory, wrote it in the book form, Origin of Species, did not publish it for several years with the fear that the church would not agree with him. In any case, the Francis Collins, who was recent NIH director and had done the Human Genome Project under President Clinton, and he wrote a book called Language of God, and it was a fascinating book. And so in that particular book, he mentions that there are 3 different questions which Americans were asked. The question was asked as to which opinion do you agree? Human beings are product of evolution from other creatures, and the God had a role in that process. That was the number 1 option. Human beings are product of evolution from other creatures, and God had no role in the process. Opinion number 2. 3 human beings were created by God in last 10,000 years. In the country of USA, approximately 45% respondents agreed with the number 3 statement. 38% agreed with the statement number 2, where it stated that human beings are product of evolution and God had no role in the process. Only 13% agreed with the statement number 2, which is what I just read. So even in an advanced country like America, people do not believe in theory of evolution as strongly as they should. So going back to Darwin, was born in 1809 and wanted to be a priest. Between 1831 and 1836, he went to South America on HSS Beagle. There he studied the species and fossils for 20 years, concluded that we all started with a single ancestor, and wrote the book called Origin of Species. I'm sometimes surprised how these scientists come across conclusions from common things that we all the time see, but have no conclusions drawn. Watching an apple falling from a tree gave rise to the theory of gravity by Sir Isaac Newton. Archimedes was taking a bath in the tub and suddenly realized how to find the gold in the king's crown. And when Einstein apparently was riding a bike or a bus, saw a clock, and he thought of the theory of relativity. He also had a question as a child if you could catch the ray of the light, if you ran with the speed of the light. When I was in the school, my question was if I could go early, can I catch the beautiful girls going to my class? According to Darwin, all started with a single cell organism, and over a period of time, several thousand million years became what we are today. The fish which swims in the water, and the eagle which flies high in the sky, and walking man all have same ancestors. A somewhat difficult truth to digest. But today the genetics has proved that mice and the human beings have at least 99% similarity in the protein producing genes. Of course, out of 3 billion pairs, only 20 to 25,000 genes are involved in this process. We often hear about criminal cases of paternity decision, which were determined by DNA match. We also make statements like Zakir plays great tabla as it is in his genes. But what exactly are genes and what is a DNA? So let's talk about that, which is the basic understanding of genetics. In our body, we have organs like liver and kidney and skin, brain, eyes. Each organ is made of building blocks called cell. The cell is so small that it can only be seen under microscope. Each cell has a nucleus, which is like central command center for the cell. In the nucleus, there are chromosomes stripped inside every cell that can absorb color when you prepare a cell for observing under microscope. That's why they call chromosomes. And the chromosomes have the gene, or have rather the DNA. Some of the pieces of the DNA are actually the genes. So genes are part of DNA. DNA is part of chromosome. Chromosome is in the center of the nucleus of a cell. Nucleus is in the cells. Cells make the organs. These are things so small, but that only electron microscope could see some of this stuff. But the DNA is 6 feet long. 1953, Watson and Crick showed the structure of DNA and showed which chemicals go in formation of DNA. They were awarded the Nobel Prize for discovery of DNA structure, which is called a double helix, or like a ladder, which is twisted on itself. Like 2 sticks of the ladder are made of phosphates and sugar molecule, but the real thing is in the steps, the rungs. Each one is made of 4 chemicals: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. And the combination of these 2, or variation in the combination, makes it the DNA. The 6-week DNA tightly twisted like a rassi, like a rope. Small piece of DNA is a gene where information is coded. Imagine the whole human body starts as one cell. The ovum fertilized by sperm, and then multiply, and then it multiplies, forms different organs out of one single cell, which has no similarity in a gross or microscopic appearances. So think about God putting a microchip with an encoding of the program to create an entire human body. Amazing thing. When the gene that is responsible for making a specific protein, and as I mentioned, there are 20 to 25,000 proteins making genes, the DNA part which contains this particular gene untwists, which means it becomes like a regular ladder, and then the part is cut. The gene is part of it is cut, and which is sent into the nucleus, from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, or the liquid outside the cell nucleus inside the cell, where it goes to ribosomes, and a message is decoded and order is made to a specific protein formation. Almost like you going to a restaurant, waiter takes your orders. I want spicy, not spicy, well done, not well done. Goes to the kitchen and chef makes the food as you ordered. So your order is like the gene. The waiter is the one who takes it out to the ribosome, where ribosome is like the chef. The protein producing genes are barely 20 to 25,000 out of several millions genes, and the pairs are almost 3 billions. It is difficult when we look at human being with such a millions and millions of cells, and compared to an earthworm which has barely 759 cells, that the genes which produce protein are same. Again, Darwin had no idea about the genes. So how how it is possible that the same earthworm and the human beings have, which have absolutely no similarity in their look, function, action, understanding, language, have exactly the same number of genes. Again, this can be explained by Francis Collins saying that the similar words can produce a simple fourth grade understanding instruction to create a desk or a table, and the same words can be used to write the Shakespearean books. Now, but it is true that we all have the same ancestor is by looking at these protein producing genes. There are parts of the genes which has we call it sometimes junk gene or ancient repetitive element called ARE. They're also similar in mouse and us and even in earthworm for that matter. So how did this evolution occur? According to the Darwin, the answer was survival of the fittest and the gene mutation that produces better surviving creatures for adverse conditions. Again, this is according to Darwin, but how did human beings actually come into existence from a single cell amoeba? Now, gene mutation occurs either because of a reason or happens because of no reason, or what is called spontaneous mutation. We get half the genes from the father and half the genes from the mother. Spontaneous mutation occurs 1 in 100 million genes per each generation. So we have 60 new genes that were neither in our father or mother. These may be located at such place that they do not play any role or cause any obvious effect, or we simply do not know what they do. But certain gene mutation allows the animal to survive better than other animals of the same species under adverse conditions. This better suited animal then passes the new genes to the next generation that helps the survival, and the animals that do not have this mutation die and cannot pass the genes that do not have the mutation. Development of complicated human eye is one such example. Eye has been often quoted by people that don't believe in Darwinian theory as how such a complex structure could be produced by simple mutation. Now, there are some mutations which are good, there are some which are bad, and some which are good and bad. The sickle cell, that is a gene mutation in hemoglobin, is an example of good-bad. The malaria was endemic in Africa. Now, again, this particular explanation, some people may not agree, where the parasite enters the red cells and kills it. When the red cells are round and they can pass through a tiny blood vessels very easily, but they're also susceptible to this particular malaria. So the mutation occurred, the cell became like sickle. And this particular cell became resistant to be invaded by the malaria parasite. But because the cell is not round and the sickle cell got trapped in the red cells, the small capillaries or the small blood vessels, and that caused the severe pain and the sickle cell anemia because of the crisis occurred. Now again, as I said, there are people that do not believe this really is a good explanation. The problem that I have is reasoning given behind the evolution. I certainly agree with that evolution did happen. I do believe, based on the evidence that was quoted by Darwin in the book of Species, that this did happen. But the questioning that I have about it is the reasoning. Multiplication of single cell amoeba is quite simple. The best way to produce or more of oneself is to eat, get bigger, become 2, eat, get bigger and become 4, eat, get bigger and become 8, or so on. That is the best way how amoeba multiplies. But then if you look at why did the amoeba become multicellular, the question would be, well, it could be protected from bigger predators. Where did bigger predator come in? So the answer could be environmental, like wind and heat, that could kill a single cell amoeba very quickly. So it became multicellular, more than one cells. And as it happened, the multiplication became more complex. The pregnancy of a mice is 21 days, and at one time they have more than one mouse. Contrast to that, if you look at the human reproduction, the human egg is released once in 28 days, roughly, or so, and it is released 14 days before the menstrual period begins. Man and a woman must come together when the egg is released to have a fertilization, which is certainly a guesswork at the best, and at a given time only one egg is released. Pregnancy lasts 280 days, and most of the time there's only one child. So if the evolution occurred from mice to the human reproduction, where the pregnancy is multiple pregnancies and short duration compared to the human one, where only one progeny is formed, it doesn't look like it's an advantage. When you look at the newly born mice or calf or any other animal, they're pretty much independent and start walking, not the human child. They're dependent for 2, 4, 5 years of their life for standing, walking, crawling, feeding, bathing, thirst being quenched, etc. So it is difficult to understand why a progress could be called as a human reproduction compared to that with the mice or any other lower animals. Certainly, gene mutation can occur in cancer cells. We will talk about the 2 separate mutations, one which occurs and is present in every cell of the body. Example would be breast cancer gene. Contrast to that, the gene mutation that occurs in cancer cells is a different type of mutation. So we'll talk and we'll catch up with that next time. Thank you for watching. I know these videos are a little longer, a little bit dry, but I want to do it so that general people can understand when they talk about genes and DNA and mutation, that they know exactly what is it meant, or at least roughly they know what exactly it is meaning. Thank you for watching. If you like, please subscribe. Have a nice day.